Unfortunately, Sabrina's feeling of security was short-lived. She saw the red dragon rising from the ground like a missile, its deadly mouth open wide. She swooped suddenly to the left, dodging its jaws as they clamped down just inches from her. The creature's gnashing teeth sounded like a car crash. She flew to the left, then to the right. The monster's breath scorched her tail feathers. No matter where she went, it chased her. Even when she dropped back into the trees, the dragon smashed through them, pulverizing huge oaks and giant maples as easily as a child running through tall grass. Sabrina knew she couldn't outrun it for long. She was already tired, and the tree limbs kept clipping her wings, making it impossible to coast on the breeze. When a stiff limb caught her across the chest, she tumbled to the ground. The force shook her, but she staggered to her feet and hopped along the forest floor. The red dragon crashed to the ground, blocking her path. Its head dipped low to scrutinize her. The creature let out a satisfied chuckle. It reared back, inhaling deeply into its mouth and nose, apparently preparing to blast Sabrina. She knew there was nothing she could do to escape, and she braced herself for death. "Run, child!" a voice called from above. Sabrina looked up to see Buzzflower floating above the dragon's head. She waved her wand at the creature, and a bolt of blue energy exploded into the dragon's chest. The dragon screeched and fell backward, landing with a loud thud. Sabrina turned and fled as fast as her legs would allow, until she heard a horrible roar. She turned to see flames rising up into the trees. Had Buzzflower been hit? There was no way to know, but Sabrina feared the worst. She heard more angry roars, saw more fiery blasts, and suddenly the dragon was in front of her again. "Fine! You want to kill me? I'm right here!" Sabrina shouted. "But don't be too proud of yourself, lizard face. I'm weakened by this stupid spell. If I was my normal self, you would never stand a chance against me." "You speak gibberish, child," the dragon said. Its voice was like 1,000 volcanoes exploding at once. "Child? How did it know she was a child?" She looked down, wondering if he could see through her magical transformation, and saw that her feathers were gone. Her wings had vanished. Even the hard yellow beak was nowhere to be found. The magic had worn off. "Great," she grumbled. "It wears off just in time for me to be roasted like a marshmallow." "Not tonight, big sis." Suddenly, Daphne hoisted Sabrina up onto the flying carpet. They darted away, the monster roaring in frustration. "See, I told you it's temporary," Daphne said. "You did not," Sabrina challenged, trying to get her bearings. "Well, I meant to," Daphne said. She turned to Briar Rose and Uncle Jake. "Dudes, can we slow down the kissing? We need all the magic we can get. What do you have in that jacket that fights dragons?" "Preferably something with instructions," Sabrina added. Uncle Jake pulled out vials of strange liquids, weird rings and amulets, and even a smelly fur hat. He laid them all on the rug for Daphne and Sabrina to examine. "It's not much, ladies, except maybe this will help," he said, choosing a small black coin from the pile. He rubbed his hand over it for a moment and it began to spin. "What is it?" Daphne asked. "You'll see," Jake said. The dragon brushed the rug, causing them to spiral out of control. In the collision, Jake fell hard onto his shoulder. He let out a howl and then passed out from the pain. "Oh, Jake," Briar cried as she cradled his head in her lap. "There's got to be something else in that jacket," Sabrina said. "Briar, help me search." They shoved their hands into as many pockets as they could until Briar found a small felt-covered box. "What's that?" Sabrina asked. Briar opened it. Inside was a bright diamond ring. The stone was emerald cut and mounted on a platinum band. Is that? Daphne gasped as she watched Briar Rose slip it onto her ring finger. Though she was laughing and smiling wildly, Briar's cheeks were wet with tears. Yes, she cried. Yes, I will marry you, Jacob Grimm. You might want to wait until he wakes up. He's awake, Jacob, Sabrina said with a smile. You may be right. Briar giggled and put the ring away. Mellow Bob joined them, flying alongside the carpet. My wonders has almost no effect on the dragons now, she said. It's only making them angrier. Where's the coin? Daphne begged. Sabrina found it lying beside her uncle's hand. She grabbed it and quickly passed it to her sister. Daphne flipped it over several times and then rubbed her hand over it, just as Uncle Jake had done. Soon it was spinning faster and faster. When the green dragon got close enough, Daphne tossed the coin directly at it, where it landed in its gaping maw. Bolts of lightning sparked out from inside its jaws and erupted out of its fat belly. The dragon fell out of the sky, but before it hit the ground and exploded. Gross, Sabrina said. Next time, warn a person before you blow a dragon up in front of her. I'm going to have nightmares until I'm 100 years old. Sorry, Daphne said. I didn't know I was going to do that either. Now for the other two. Shouldn't we try to outrun them? Sabrina asked. You can't outrun a dragon, Brina, Uncle Jake said, stirring. I've tried. The purple dragon had been circling above them, but now dove like a kamikaze pilot. The carpet easily dodged its attack, but the monster was not discouraged. It looped around to attack again. Once again, the carpet swerved to safety. Land this thing, Uncle Jake suggested. We won't have a chance if we stay in the air. Daphne did as she was told, landing in a nearby clearing, where they were joined by Mallow Bob and Buzzflower. Uncle Jake struggled to his feet and shooed everyone from the rug. He begged the fairy godmothers to help find shelter for the others. Use whatever protection spells you know, he commanded. The fairy godmothers didn't like Uncle Jake's demanding tone. They frowned, but Briar spoke up. Just this once, don't argue. He's trying to help. Mallow Bob forced a smile and led the group toward the safety of the trees, just as the purple dragon landed hard on the ground in front of Uncle Jake. Jake didn't even flinch. In fact, he smiled. You are either brave or stupid, the dragon croaked. Maybe a little bit of both, Uncle Jake replied. In fact, many of your kind would say the same of you for challenging Jake Grimm. But I don't expect you to know who I am. I suppose you don't get out of town very often. I'll consider myself warned, human, and I will return the favor. I'm about to roast your bones. You should run. No need, Jake said as he dug into his pockets. I happen to have the amulet of Runa. Liar, the dragon growled. No, it's right here, he said, fumbling nervously. Sabrina pointed to the handfuls of rings and necklaces Daphne held. Could one of those be the amulet of Runa? Daphne cringed. Uncle Jake, what does the amulet of Runa look like? It's a black necklace with a silver crescent moon. Daphne sorted frantically through the items she'd taken from Jake's pockets. She held up a necklace that looked exactly like the one her uncle described. Is this it? Fudge. The dragon chuckled and took a deep breath. Sabrina could hear the flames building inside its throat. Uncle Jake shoved his hands into another pocket, but it was too late. The dragon blasted him, and the flames engulfed his entire body. His body darkened until it looked like a piece of charcoal, his features reduced to those of a volcanic rock. After what felt like minutes, the fire was gone. The forest was full of smoke and cinders that burned Sabrina's eyes. "No!" Briar cried. Her fairy godmothers tried to hold her back, but she broke free and ran to Jake's charred body, which was frozen in place like a statue. Tears spilled from Sabrina's eyes. Daphne was in hysterics, sobbing and trembling. Briar collapsed. Mallow Bob attended to her, but she was just as shaken, her face cracked and confused. "We should go," Mallow Bob said to Sabrina. "The beast will turn on us." Sabrina shook her head. If they wanted her to leave, then they would have to drag her away. She would fight the dragon with her bare hands now. The Briar seemed to feel the same way. The princess lunged at the monster, kicking and punching at its huge taloned feet. The dragon looked down at her as if she were some minor annoyance, like an ant invading its lunch, then swatted her away. Briar slammed into a tree. There was a sickly crack, and she collapsed to the ground. "Briar!" Buzzflower cried, rushing to her side. "Who's next?" the creature hissed. Sabrina braced herself for death, but something stole the monster's attention away. Something was happening to Uncle Jake's body. The smoldering black shell that covered him split. Pieces of it fell off and crumbled to dust on the ground. Inside, completely unharmed, was her uncle, and in his hand was a dark green crystal, glowing like a small star. "Luckily, I always keep a spare invulnerability crystal on me in case of emergencies," he said, then reached once again into one of his pockets. From it, he pulled an impossibly long broadsword. It was now clear to Sabrina that his jacket was just as magical as the things he stored inside it. In one quick motion, he lunged at the dragon, shoved the sword under its chin, and easily sliced through the creature's steel-strong skin. The dragon let out a muffled cry and then, with a ground-shaking thud, fell over dead. High above, the red dragon roared in rage. "You want some?" Uncle Jake laughed. The dragon flew off. "That's what I thought, punk." "Jacob!" Buzzflower said to get his attention. Jake turned to her and saw his fallen girlfriend. He raced to her side and cradled her in his arms. "What happened?" Uncle Jake cried. "The dragon," Sabrina started, but was all she could muster before tears took over. Briar, honey, wake up for me," Jake begged. "We've got to get her back to the camp. Nurse Sprat can help. She's got medicines, and I've got..." "She's gone, Jacob," Mallow Bob said. Uncle Jake buried his face in Briar's hair and he wept. "No, no, no!" Sabrina and Daphne stood on the edge of the clearing. For the first time in days, they hugged each other like sisters. Chapter 6. The sisters, their parents, and Granny Rhoda stood in the huge crowd gathered around a vacant space in the camp, now designated as a cemetery. Mr. Canis stood shoulder to shoulder with Robin Hood and Prince Charming. The three men somberly gazed down at the crude casket Geppetto had built for Briar. Pinocchio had helped carry it to the plot where her body would rest. Red Riding Hood placed a bouquet of wildflowers she had gathered along the camp. That seems to be the end of this video. I'll send them later. Goodbye.